Hi there, and today I'm going to be doing the final updates to the Space Buggy before the Brick Festival this weekend, and I've got a small order of parts to do that. I've also got a small update on last week's video on making light up LED lampposts. I'm also going to show you all the other builds that I'm going to be taking to the show, but most important, I've now bought a roll of gold shiny vinyl, so by the end of the video, our Spaceman is going to have his gold logo on his chest. So first of all, thanks again to everyone who's been commenting and subscribing. Also, many thanks to all my channel members who help make all these videos possible. And if you're interested in becoming a channel member, you can click the join button below and it'll give you all the details. But first of all, we're going to move the Space Buggy out of the way and do one quick amend from last week's video building this lamppost. Now, if you watched my last week's video on how I was adding LEDs to my Lego lampposts, you'll know that my first attempt wasn't very successful as I drilled straight through the side of the lamppost. So if you're planning on making these yourself, I've had two very handy hints on how to keep the drill bit straight as it goes in the bottom of the lamppost. The first suggestion requires extra equipment, and that means buying a pillar drill. And this is a drill which is set vertically and it only can go up and down. It can't angle or anything like that, so it would ensure that I got a straight drill straight through the bottom of the lamppost. However, buying a pillar drill just to drill 20 lampposts seems a little bit overkill to me, so I prefer the Lego solution. Now, the second solution is to use a whole bunch of 1x1 round plates, and these are the ones with the hole in the middle. If you angle them like that, you can see straight down the middle of this. And the idea is that if we add a whole bunch of these to the bottom, if we put the drill bit in, that's going to keep it straight. And then as we go deeper in, all you need to do is pull the drill out, take some more off, and then push it in a little bit more, take some more off, and the holes in these plates are going to ensure that it keeps the drill bit straight. And the beauty of this solution is that I can use it on the other end as well. In the video, I had to drill from both ends to meet in the middle, and if we take the minifig head and the dish off the top, we can take all these plates off the bottom, add them to the top, and it's going to do the same thing. All the holes in those plates are going to keep my drill bit straight as I drill down through the lamppost. Now, the second update relates to the colour of the light. I used what's called cool white LEDs, and that gives you a very blue light, and many people said it's not really the sort of colour you get from lampposts, and I'd be much better off buying warm white LEDs, and it'll give me a more yellow light. And I entirely agree. I bought cool white thinking it would be a brighter light, but I didn't factor in that it would be a bluer light as well. The other option that I've got, which I thought of not from the comments, is that because I've already got all these cool white LEDs, I could always swap the minifig head for a transparent yellow minifig head, and that would give us the same effect. It would be a brighter light, but inside a yellow head. Now, I haven't got any transparent yellow minifig heads in my parts collection, so I'm going to buy some in and do a little bit of experimenting and see which option I prefer. So on to Space Buggy amends, and first to the astronaut. Now, you'll remember that no one on Bricklink in the whole of the UK was selling the face parts, so I had to buy a plain yellow one and then steal the face off the racing car driver. But I also mentioned that I'd ordered a few of those faces from lego.com Pick-a-Brick, and normally this takes quite a while for those parts to arrive, but incredibly they've come already. So I now challenge everyone to look at this bag of parts which has arrived from lego.com and not give at least a little bit of a smile. How can you look at that and not be happy? So although Nicolas Cage and John Travolta never made a sequel to Face Off, we're going to do one now. My Lego astronaut is going to give his face back to the racing car driver, and he's going to get a brand new one. In the comments, there were also still an awful lot of people very concerned about the antenna. In an earlier part, I replaced the dome on top, which had a stud, to these 4/4 dome pieces, and I casually mentioned in that video that that made the antenna one plate higher, and I'm still getting an awful lot of people saying I should take a brick out and replace it with 2 plates, so it reduces it back down to its original height. Now, I can't stress this enough. The height of the original antenna which I made was a complete guess. I got an antenna and roughly measured it 6 times height. Since then, it has also changed because I had a 3x3 part here and we've changed that for a 4x4. We also had the bucket at the bottom. We've changed it for a Technic wheel. So the height of this antenna is very varied and not entirely accurate. So I would much prefer to have the sort of the consistent look of just having bricks down the antenna rather than having 2 plates. So thank you for all the comments and all your concern about the height of the antenna, but it's going to stay as it is. Next, we come to the steering wheel. Now, last time I replaced all those 2x2 tiles for these 2x4 tiles. However, I left the 2 1x4s at the end, and lots of people have said, why didn't I shuffle them all along and replace those 2 for another 2x4? And that's a very valid point. It'll make it a lot more neater, so I'm going to do that now. And that definitely looks a lot better. And with the steering wheel itself reinstated, yes, looks much better. Next update is about the wheels. And I had a few comments saying that the proportions of the tyre to the red hub were different and that there's effectively more black on the original than there is on the new one. And someone very cleverly suggested that the red wheel hubs, if I got them in black, so I just had the red bricks in the middle, it would effectively give me more black and less red. And that is a really good solution. I have tried to find 4 black hubs on Bricklink. However, I couldn't get any here in time. So at some point in the future, I may well have a sort of play around with that. But for now, they're going to have to stay as they are. Then we come to the wheel solution itself. Now, most people thought this was really good. Lots of people didn't realise that Lego made giant wheels like this. Like I said in an earlier video, they actually make 96 different sizes of wheels. So I had a lot to choose from. But some people seem to have felt cheated in the comments that I didn't make the wheels brick built. Now, I'm not entirely sure why they thought I was going to make them out of bricks, as I'd never mentioned this, and it hadn't actually even occurred to me. I was always going to use Lego wheels so it would roll along nicely. And I know that the tread pattern is completely different. They did make wheels with this tread pattern in a Technic wheel in the late 70s and early 80s. They're much bigger, but they aren't big enough to fit here, and they still look very silly. I have got some of those from an old set that I had, and it was totally disproportionate and wouldn't have worked at all. So I thought this was the only solution that I could go for. Brick building wheels was never going to be a fun solution, and it wouldn't have rolled around as well as it does now. 2 other points about the wheels themselves which got an awful lot of comments, and the first one is that the original wheels had a fixed axle. So if I turn this wheel, the other one turns, whereas if I turn this wheel, this one doesn't, because they're not joined in the middle. And everyone kept saying I could get a longer axle, join them together, or do 2 slightly longer axles and join them in the middle. And as I've always said in other videos, I'm not going to work on parts which don't get seen and sort of aren't necessary to the build if it requires buying extra parts, which I don't have. And I had lots of these axles, so that's what I used. It doesn't affect the build in any way, so I'm going to keep it as it is unless I come across some long axles which sort of are in a bulk purchase I buy or something like that. Otherwise, these they work perfectly well. The fact that they're not joined together doesn't actually affect the build itself. The other point about the wheels, which I got an awful lot of comments, is that at the edge of the 2x2 plate, it's got those 2 grey prongs that you can see, and underneath it curves round, and that's what's holding the axle in place. Now, a lot of people said I really needed to implement that in here. However, once the buggy is standing upright, you can hardly see in there at all. The only way you can see it, if I line up the camera perfectly from behind and zoom right in, you can just about see the 2x2 round plate in there. If I pull this wheel out, yes, you can. If I let some light in there, so I'm pulling these parts apart, and then you can just about see that it's red. The only thing, easier solution I think, would be replace that with a grey round 2x2, but again, it's an update which won't get seen. It won't actually affect the build at all, so for now I'm going to leave them as they are. And then for the final comment about the wheels, I've taken one of the hubs off so you can see what I'm talking about. Many people have said that because I've got this row of tiles around the 4x4 round brick in the middle, effectively the stud, you can see that they have sort of hidden 1 plate's depth of the bottom of the stud, and that this should be raised up 1. Now, the reason I built it this way is that the tyres on the original do stick out slightly, so the stud in the middle does actually look as if it's not the height of a regular stud. Now, I did pull one of these tyres off. I actually broke my nail in the process, and I measured the stud, and it is actually the same height as a regular stud. So this is an update suggestion which I'm going to go along with. Now, I did get a small box of parts delivered this week, and in there are 4 red 4x4 round plates, and we're going to use them to raise up the wheel studs by 1 plate. And it's the easiest thing to do. They have also got a hole in the middle, so they're not going to affect the axles at all. But if I take the stud off the middle, pop that one on, and put the 2 sides back on, and then when we replace the stud in the middle, that needs to go underneath like that, you can see it's got a lot more height now. Then that green 2x2 needs to go back in there. Then we're going to pop it all back on, put the wheel on, and add the hub back on as well. And then a quick comparison, you can see, yes, this one's sticking out by an extra plate. I think does look better than the original one, so we're going to replace those all the way round. And now those all match, I think it looks a lot better. Now, in case you're interested, the other parts in my order were an old Adventures themed Pharaoh skeleton, which was a minifigure that this seller had, which I didn't own, so I thought I'd just tag that onto the order. There's an awful lot of 6x6 grey dishes, which are a potential blaster upgrade, and then lots of little bits in this bag. And they include some 2x2 round plates, again for the blaster, some dark grey masonry bricks, which are for a train bridge build, which I'm going to do in a few weeks' time in a future video. Another one of these clear 4x4 round plates with the hole in the middle, just in case I ever want to increase that anti-stud on the bottom of the blaster. And then some short red bars and some lamp holders for a mini side build. Now those parts are to build another one of these, and I'm not sure if you're getting any visual clues about what this could be and what it looks like. So I'm just going to build a second one, and then I'm going to show you what I'm going to use it for. before. So I'm going to stick the 3 long red bar through the lamp holder, and I've got some 1x1 round plates with the holes in the middle. I'm going to put 2 on this end like that, and then 2 on the other end. And then I've got my 2 sets of micro Space Buggy wheels. And if I attach them to the bottom of this build here, so one's going to go there and the other one is going to go here, and we turn it over, hopefully we've got what looks like a mini classic Space Buggy. And if we put a white micro astronaut, then hopefully we've got our regular sized one, we've got our upscaled one, and now we've got a teeny tiny micro one. So onto the blaster, and I mentioned in the last video that if I'd thought about rotating this large plate earlier on, I would have probably built this handle the other way around, so those studs weren't pointing against these studs, and we had it the other way around, so the anti-studs connected to it. But I liked this piece on the other end, so it needed to be this way round. And lots of people suggested, why don't I just change direction halfway down the handle? So first of all, I've taken that plate off, and I'm going to disassemble the rest of the handle. So we had that on that side and then 1 brick on the other side. So if we rotate this round so that now that connects, that's going to be a much more sturdy connection at this end. However, we realise that yes, the studs have just moved down, the problem's moved to this point. So again, we're going to do the same, pull that out, spin this round and attach it, and then that's where this piece comes along. We're going to attach that to there, and then the end of that dish piece will sit in the hole of that. So that bar piece is still holding it together, but we've now got a sturdier connection here. We're going studs facing to the right all the way down here, and then we reverse, and then studs face to the left from this plate onwards. I also took the opportunity to replace the 3 long bar that was inside here with a 4 long bar, and now it stretches all the way from this brick to this brick, so this is a lot more sturdy construction. And if we replace it back on to the rest of the blaster, looks better and a lot more sturdy than it was. And then lastly we come to these dish pieces. Now the dishes I used down here created that ridged effect, and this was a handy quick solution to make a sort of ridged effect up here. But now I've got 5 of these larger dishes. I'm going to put them in and see if that gives a better effect than this piece does. So if we get all 5 of those and stack them up, again these pieces only arrived yesterday, so I haven't had a chance to look at it before. Yes, no, they're much too close together. I think we'd need to put 2x2 round plates in between them. Then we go and grab some of those from my parts store and see how it goes. Now in my round plates drawer, I've only got 1 in light grey, and these are going to need to be light grey because they're going to be on display. But fortunately, even though I don't have any in here, I do know where there are some more. And that's because the first few parts I built on the buggy, if we take one of those studs off and shove an aerial in it, I was still using light grey pieces until I'd run out of them. So what we can do, we can hide them, replace them with coloured pieces because they'll get hidden, and steal 4 of these to go in the blaster. So the 4 studs in the seat of the buggy now have white plates inside them, and once we replace that tile, no one's ever going to know. Put those back on, and now I've got a nice stack of 4 grey 2x2 round plates. So a quick before and after shot. Here are 5 dishes stacked next door to each other, and here's what it looks like with a 2x2 stacked in between each of them. And I think, yes, it does look a lot more like the ridges on the original blaster. So I've taken the rest of the blaster apart. I've taken the last grey bit off the green end, and I've put a plate on the bottom. As in a previous video, you'll know this tends to spring apart and all these pieces become very loose, so that's just keeping that in tension while I work on it. Then of course we've got our 2 Technic wheels. So if I slide this one off like that one, we've got our other one which we use on the bottom of the antenna. This piece has become loose, so let's just push that back in, and then slide our new dishes onto our axle, which gives us that sort of effect. Then we'll put the handle back on, and then I think we've got to decide, does that look better than it did with the previous Technic wheel and having these dish pieces there instead? Now upscaling is all about compromise, and the last piece on the blaster, which is smooth without the ridges, is definitely a smaller diameter to the green piece itself, which is 6x6, and we've got that which is about 5x5 we said when we built the antenna piece, and then we've got our 6x6 plate. We've got to have one of those to keep the green end together. So I think, yes, it's not perfect, but it's whether I prefer the ridges from the dish pieces and then a smaller piece here, or whether we liked the look of the Technic wheel, which was more maybe in proportion size wise, but didn't look like the ridges on the original blaster. So that's with it all back together, and I think, yes, it definitely looks better. However, it has made it a lot heavier. These 5 pieces and the plates in between, they're a lot heavier than this Technic wheel piece, and we have got one weak point left, which is the join down here, which is, if I take it apart, just there. We've got an axle coming through to this part, and then obviously that axle can go no further because of the Technic round 2x2 we've got here. So the whole, the weight of this end, which is actually an awful lot of weight, are just being held on by those 4 studs. And although it does just about work, I can feel it could, if I give that a shake around, there you go, it does fall off quite easily. So it's going to be very fragile. We've just got to decide whether we prefer looks over stability, and I think, yeah, maybe it's not going to get touched at the show, so hopefully I'll leave it like this. I may take this piece along with us just in case, but I'm going to leave it like that and reattach it to the buggy like this. And I was just about to put my tray of round plates away, and I suddenly realised I've got 4x4 round red plates in this tray. I don't know why I didn't look in here in the first place before I placed that order this week. I could have updated the wheels with what I already had. But oh well, I'm sure they'll come in useful for something in the future. So that's all the buggy updates done. Before I do the logo on the Spaceman's torso, I'm just going to show you the other things I'm going to be taking to the show. Now, I told Brick Festival that my display was going to be called The Sizes and the Colours of Classic LEGO Space. So obviously that was the sizes, here's the colours. I've got my Every Spaceman is Awesome display, which was based around the original LEGO set, which was Everyone is Awesome, which just had minifigures in the various different colours. We've had a couple of colours added to this, so light grey wasn't in the original, and of course the dark blue one. He hasn't got a dark blue classic space helmet, they don't make them, so he's had to have a motorcycle helmet and black air tanks, but it'll do for now. So we've got our 12 colours of spacemen, and then we've got our 3 colours of micro astronaut or space baby. So the white one is a micro astronaut, and the other 2, they've got their baby faces, so they're space babies, but these are the only 3 colours. The blue comes in both face variant, but we've got one of each, so I'm going to take that along, and it can sit next to the spacemen. Next, I'm going to be taking along a few things to promote my channel while I'm at the show. In a previous video I showed these already. I think it was a Lego little card holder, so they've got tiles and then panels around the bottom, and then my minifig Jez cards can sit in there, so anyone who comes along can take one of these, and they've got my QR code and my YouTube address on the back. If you've ever been to any kind of Lego show before, tradition is that displayers have 1x8 bricks which show where they've been before. Now, even though this is my first exhibition, I do have several 1x8 bricks from various groups that I'm a member of. So I've put this little display together. I've got a Classic Space logo, then Minifig Jez. Brickish is a UK Lego group which I'm a member of, and then these are 21, 22, 23. This is my membership to the UK Lego Railway group. And then bottom Brickset, I'm a member of Brickset, and a few years ago they did a promotion where you could get a brick of their logo too. So this was just a simple black build, and when I get my brick from the show itself, I'm going to be able to take the top row off like that. I've got a few extra 1x2s in the back which I can stack on each side, then hopefully I'll have a nice brick saying Brick Festival Woking 2025. Then my last promotional piece is this brick built QR code. I built this on a live stream with several people chatting to me about it as I built it, and this hopefully will be just an added attraction. People will see it and hopefully scan it with their device and get jumped straight to my YouTube channel and hopefully subscribe. Which does bring me to another point. If you're watching this video and you haven't subscribed, my YouTube stats tell me that about 95% of my viewers aren't actually subscribed. So if I've got about 30,000 subscribers, that's only about 5% of the people who are actually watching my videos. So if you've got a few seconds, please do click that subscribe button. It really helps me out. It means the YouTube algorithm will spread my videos to a lot more people, and then maybe one day I'll get that hugely coveted silver YouTube play button. And then the last part of my display, which I absolutely love, is the many different sizes of classic spacemen. Now, I showed some of these on an earlier video, but I've now completed the display and labelled them all up. So first of all, we've got our nano classic spaceman figure, and this came from a gift with purchase many years ago, which was a minifigure factory, and we had a regular size minifigure making this minifigure as a minifigure, if you see what I mean. And these are the 3 other nano figures which came in that minifig factory set, and here's my complete display of nano figures. I've got half of them down here and then a whole nother bunch on this display here. And then moving along, we've got our Micro Astronaut and our Space Baby. And these are the 2 minifigs. This one came in a collectible minifigure series, and it's a Space Baby. You can tell that because he's got his cute eyes. And then we've got the Micro Astronaut, which is the same mold, just a different face. It's got our classic smiley face. And he came in the 2 VIP sets, the Micro Rocket Launcher set and the Micro Command Base. Then we come to our Micro figure, and this is from one of the sets which was from the Lego Games series. These were the game pieces, and they did many different games from lots of different themes, and this was was one from the classic space. And LEGO have made many of these from many different themes. You can see here, these are the Star Wars based ones. You've got to see 3 more classic space astronauts up there. If we shuffle along, here are the Harry Potter figures. There's some Batman ones down here, and then there's 2 more classic spaces, our red and our blue one up here. And in fact, my second ever video about 8 years ago was a video of this collection here. At the time I hadn't completed it, but now I have every single micro figure that LEGO ever made, all the printed ones, and then right down the end here there are also some plain ones as well. So every one of those is now complete in my collection. Then after the micro figure, we finally get onto our normal regular minifig sized figures, and I've got 3 of those in this display. We've got our classic Spaceman, obviously from the early 80s. Then along from him we've got Benny from the Lego movie. Now he's obviously meant to be a classic Spaceman, only he's had a lot of playware over the years, so his logo's fading, and also the chin strap on his helmet broke, as in the original ones in the 80s tended to do an awful lot. But this one is actually not broken. They made a special broken, well, looking like it was broken helmet, especially for the Lego movie. So there's Benny there, and then also I thought I had to include him. He's got a blue classic space torso. There's minifig Jez himself. And then after minifig Jez, we've got quite a rare item. This was a Christmas tree decoration that was made. He's completely solid, he doesn't articulate, but he is a blue classic spaceman. He's got a little ring in his head up there, so you can hang him from a Christmas tree. I've had to make a very elaborate, ornate stand for him to stand in, because his legs are permanently fixed like this. But we've got our Lego classic space Christmas tree decoration. And then next to last in this display, we've got a torch keyring. So he's slightly bigger than the Christmas tree decoration, but if we remove him, you can see he's a normal upscaled minifigure. He's got a small square button in his torso, and if you press that, he's got slight bit of battery left in him, but you can see the 2 lights lighting up in his legs there. Now LEGO made many of the different versions of these out of many different types of minifigure. The only problem with this one, it's the only figure that I've seen it happen to, is that normally when the batteries run out, you unscrew the back of his torso and pop the batteries out and replace them. However, this minifigure has air tanks, so you can't actually get to the screws which unscrew the battery compartment. So unfortunately, the batteries have nearly gone on this, and once they're gone, they'll be gone forever. I'm never going to be able to replace them, which is really sad. I've tried removing this pin. It comes out part way, and you can just about get his helmet off ever so slightly, but that's as far as we can go. We can't get any further than that. I may be, when the batteries finally run out, I may do a little bit of surgery and try and pull that pin out all the way and see if I can get the air tanks off. But unfortunately, other than that, the battery is going to run out, and he's going to be just a display piece, no longer able to be used as a torch. Then on the end here, we've got the Benny version of the Lego Brickheads. Now this was an exclusive to I think it was either Target or Walmart over in America, and it was for the Lego movie, and it was actually originally Benny, and what I did, I converted him to be a classic spaceman instead. So he had a broken chin strap, but I modified that so it was complete. I did some work on his helmet as well to make it more round looking, but we've got a classic spaceman Brickheads. Interestingly, the pieces on the back that they use for air tanks is the same piece that they use for R2-D2's body, and these are in blue, and I think this is the only set that they ever came in blue, so they're quite difficult to get hold of if you're trying to reproduce this set. But if you are interested in how I built this, there is a video all about it on my channel. Now the display that this is on, it's just some black 16x16 plates with a black wall behind it, and I've actually stolen this off my daughter, Minifig Daisy. She actually built this for a school project. She had all the planets of the solar system displayed along here with little labels beneath them, and what I did, she built the whole thing herself, but what I did was when she had these lights at the back for stars, I added a few LEDs to them, so now you can light it up like this. So I'm going to take that along with lots of extra batteries, and hopefully that'll look good as a display at the show. Then the last 2 for the sizes of spacemen, which are so big they wouldn't fit on the display, is firstly a giant nightlight. And for scale, here's our original minifigure. If we put that down here, you can see how big he actually is. Now, like the torch, he's also got a square button in the middle of his chest which you can press. Unlike the torch, his helmet does come completely off, and he doesn't actually have air tanks on the back, so you can get to the screws to change the batteries when they run out. So just like the torch keyring, the 2 lights are in the bottom of his feet, so when you turn the switch on, they both light up, and you can use him as a torch. You can point it out and find your way around the bedroom. However, when it's time to go to bed, you can then place him on this stand, and because of the clear perspex in the bottom of this, when you turn that, the whole of the base lights up and it's used as a night light. And then last of all, I'm actually going to use this Lego lunchbox as a stand because the last blue Spaceman is so big. If we stand this up here and we get our sign for our plush Spaceman, he's so big, his air tanks will sit just about on the same height as that lunchbox, and he's so big you can only fit his legs and torso in the shot, so I'm just going to zoom out a bit. So again, if we use a regular sized minifigure's scale and we put him down here, you can see again how giant that nightlight was, and now even how bigger the Lego plush astronaut is as well. Now these were also an exclusive, they were exclusive to Target in America, and when I found out that these were out, Mrs. Minifig Jez was absolutely fantastic. She managed to track one down on the internet and gave it to me for my birthday. They came in a white, red, pink and blue. I think it was the 4 colours. I have got all four colours, the other 3 are in storage. It's definitely white, pink, blue. I can't remember the other colour. I believe it was red. But anyway, I've got all 4 of them. They've only produced them in America, but they are great. They have shown up a few times on lego.com as well, but quite difficult to get hold of. So after showing you all those many different sizes of blue classic Spaceman, the final thing of this video to do is obviously give our upscaled white classic Spaceman his logo on his torso. So first of all, I found a classic space logo, then I took it into Photoshop and made the whole thing completely black and white. Then I gave that file to Mrs. Minifig Jez, who took it into her vinyl software, and she separated the 2 elements out so she could cut each one in a different colour. First she cut out the red whoosh part, and because it's so small it took no time at all, it only took about 10 seconds to cut the whole thing. The gold was even quicker, it only had to cut 2 curves and 2 straight lines and only took about 5 seconds. And then once we transferred the 2 parts onto transfer tape, first of all I applied the red and got that stuck down well, but because the parts were so small, actually peeling the transfer tape off was actually a little bit more tricky than I've done before with larger logos, as I didn't want the tiny elements to peel off with the transfer tape. Then all that was left was to line up the 2 parts of the gold planet and stick that down too, and then peel off its transfer tape, making sure none of the elements came off with it. So this is future Jez just butting into the video here for a moment. All that stuff was filmed yesterday and I'm busily editing it today, ready for uploading for Friday. But mid-edit, this package has just arrived at the front door, so I thought I would quickly jump out to the studio and film it, because inside here is something that I desperately wanted to arrive before the show. And it is an original 886 in its box. The box has been opened, it's not mint in box. I didn't really want to pay for a mint one as they cost a couple of £100, but this one I'd been watching on eBay for a while, and the seller obviously wanted to get rid of it because he sent me an offer a few days ago and dropped the price drastically. So I'm not particularly bothered what condition the buggy is in, but let's have a look. Both those axles are beautifully shiny, so there's no rust there. None of these pieces, although maybe the 2x6 is a bit discoloured, a bit grubby. Let's put the 2x4 on, and the aerial, stick his air tanks on, steering wheel. So that looks pretty, isn't it? Fairly grubby, it's not as tidy as mine is. Let's look at the Spaceman, and the gold on his logo is actually still looking pretty good. So for a 1979 minifigure, this arm is slightly yellowed. The torso is looking good though. It is an original helmet, so it's not one of the ones with the strengthened chin strap. These are the ones that Benny made famous by continually cracking. So this really is a 1979 one. There's no strengthening to that chin strap when they made them slightly thicker in the 80s. So that's really cool to have. But it's more the box that I really wanted, because that has got no dings. Actually it's got a little bit of a dent there. We should be able to straighten that out. I think that's more from postage because that wasn't in the photo on the eBay listing. But still looking pretty good. If I can just close this end up, maybe I'll put some magic tape on that just to keep it closed and have that on display at the show. And a really good set of instructions. No creasing on those either. And the mammoth set of instructions with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps. So I'm so glad that this has arrived in time to take to the show this weekend. Now I'm going to get back to editing all the footage I shot yesterday, and you can watch the end of the video. And here he is with his finished logo. I managed to get some nice glittery gold vinyl, so you can see that shining in the light there. I'll probably get lots of comments about the size of this logo. Yes, I think it could be a bit bigger. However, I didn't want it to go across bricks, so I wanted to keep it on this one central panel. So I could have made it about 2mm bigger, and then I got to the edges of that panel. So yes, it is slightly smaller than probably it should be in scales with the actual minifigure. But if I'd put it across bricks, it would have given me a whole load of other problems. And one day I'm also considering maybe trying to do a brick built logo rather than a sticker logo. In sticking it on, I didn't quite get the gaps right. I'm happy with the gap between this part and the red on both sides. However, this one, the gap is slightly too small, so maybe I'll recut one of those at some point and stick that on slightly lower down. So I've finally got everything finished and ready for the Brick Festival on this Sunday. This video will go live on Friday night, so if you're watching it on Friday or Saturday, I'm busily packing up everything, getting it into boxes ready to ship out to Woking for the show. And if you're watching before Sunday and you are coming to the Brick Festival, make sure you come along and say hi. But on Sunday I'll definitely be filming my display and the other displays, and also give you an overview of the show and if I manage to find myself any bargains. So make sure you watch out for the show day video next week. But my next regular build video should hopefully be a train bridge that I've been working on, and that's all based around this bizarre city set with a go-karts racing down this ramp. And I bought this set on January the 1st because of one particular piece in this set which has never been in this colour in any Lego set before. So if you're interested to find out what that part is, look out for my next build video after the show. So thanks for watching, and thanks to my channel members for supporting the channel and helping me make these videos. As I said earlier, if you're interested in becoming a channel member and getting your name on a brick, click the join button below and it'll give you all the information you need. But if you've liked this video, please do give it a thumbs up. It really helps my videos with the YouTube algorithm. And of course, if you haven't already, please subscribe for more Lego videos.